Woo, Wednesday. Hey. So it is Wednesday. It's another one of those Wednesdays that I kind of feel like, where the fuck did this day come from? Because now the week is like almost over, which is totally fine with me. I'm not complaining. It's just kind of like, where has the rest of the week gone? I'm trying to sort of like come down. I was fairly tightly wound all day and like had really bad sleep and like just didn't feel the best. So I'm trying to sort of like get my vibe a little bit on the lower spectrum here, winding down from the workday. So our shadow read for today. The subject that I'm going to go over today is going to be, how might our shadow self be showing up in our energy right now? And this could be our physical energy or our emotional energy, or perhaps both. For some people, those two things are very closely intertwined. I know that as an empath and somebody who feels things very deeply, that's definitely me. I know when my emotional tank is running pretty low, my physical tank also feels very low. So if that's you, this might apply on a couple of levels. Okay, so first card. I tried not turning my little circle light on, and like the light is coming from the wrong angle, so I'm sorry. It's gonna leave a little bit of a glare on the card. If I do this like earlier, if I do this earlier in the day, I guess like I wouldn't have to use the light, but for now, that's kind of what it is. So if you notice, so this card I drew. We're gonna do another 3-card draw tonight, and I'm gonna do them all from the Darkwood Tarot. This one is answering the question, how is our shadow self showing up in our energy right now, right? So physically or emotionally. So we have the 6 of Wands, and interestingly enough, this card came up on our last shadow read as well, when we were talking about how is our shadow self showing up in our health or our physical body or physical health problems. So interestingly enough, and I promise I did shuffle the deck quite a few times. Thank you. Yeah, this is actually the Darkwood Tarot, and it's designed for like more shadow work. It's a really cool deck. I love it. The book that comes with it has great interpretations for specifically shadow work. They're not quite the same as just reading reversed cards, because it's not really the opposite of the card. It's I guess the best way I could put it is like, how would the standard interpretation of this be translated into something that would be negative or perceived as negative, like a shadow element of the self? So the 6 of Wands, traditionally we would interpret this as a fairly good, definitely get that deck. It's great. It's definitely worth it. It's on Amazon. We would interpret this as a fairly positive card. When we would do this in a standard read, this is like, there's been a celebration. You have accomplished something, and you're celebrating with your colleagues or peers or family. In the shadow context, what this is telling us is you are looking at what other people have, and you are comparing yourself to what they have, right? So this might be jealousy, this might be envy. Absolutely. It does fit into where we draw it. And I rarely, if ever, redraw, because I do believe that cards come up for a reason. So again, this card coming up again, I think there are some deep-rooted things around the concept of comparing ourselves to other successes, or being jealous or envious of things that other people have achieved. And when you think about this in the context of how might this be affecting our energy, both physical and emotional right now, think about the concept of comparing yourself to others, right? And if you do this frequently enough, if you are constantly scrolling through your feed, right, and you're looking at everybody else's quote unquote great life, right? And we talked about this on the last one. None of those people's lives are actually that great. None of them are that perfect physically. None of them have that clean of a house all the time, or eat that clean of a diet, or have the best behaved kids, or like whatever it is that you're seeing them post. It's all curated, right? It's all staged. None of it's real 100% of the time. It's real for about, a few minutes so they can get a photo and then post it online. Okay. And so, but are you looking at this stuff, right? Are you looking at what someone else has, and are you like, you know what? I either want to just take what they have, right? Or I want them to lose what they have. Perhaps maybe, feeling like if you can't have it, you don't want anyone else to have it, right? So this could be finding fault in others, right? And finding fault in other people's successes rather than celebrating with them, okay? And if you think about it right now, what's going on economically, socially, there's a lot of change and transformation, and it's good. It needs to happen, right? We need to break down systems that are broken, that don't work for us, that don't serve us anymore. And unfortunately, that's an uncomfortable process. And then layer on top of that, we have an outbreak of an infectious disease that has affected our economy. And so a lot of people are struggling financially right now. And it's really easy to get into the trap of, I wish I had what that person has, right? Because a lot of us are maybe looking for jobs, or we are not making as much money as we used to make, or we have a lot of bills that we've racked up, right? And it's really easy to get into that cycle of everything sucks right now. And probably for some people, everything does suck right now. So like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, there's always a silver lining, because most of the time there is a silver lining. I do believe that, but we may not always see it in the moment. But right now, what this could be looking at is, are you dissociating and are you avoiding? Are you looking at what everyone else is doing and fixating on that instead of changing your situation, right? So like, I firmly believe like most people who are out of work are trying to find work, right? But are you avoiding looking for work if you're so obsessed with what everyone else is doing, right? Like everyone else that has a great job or a great life, or again, appears to, based on what you see online, are you avoiding changing your life because it's easier to look at what other people have and just be jealous of them, right? Because change is uncomfortable, right? And it takes a lot of fucking work. It is hard to do. It is so much harder to take our lives and make them into something amazing than it is to just sit there and go, I wish I had an amazing life, right? Wishing takes zero effort, okay? So this can be that card of wanting what other people have, being jealous or envious, but doing nothing about it, okay? So we talked last time, when this card came up, I made the statement that jealousy and envy are perfectly natural emotions. And when you feel those, don't throw them out, okay? Because they do have value. They point you towards where you may feel like you're unhappy with what's going on in your life, or you feel like your life could be better, okay? So I gave the example of wanting a beautiful car, okay? But maybe it's an example of thinking that somebody else has a better relationship, right? And I'm going to tell you this right now. Nobody has a perfect relationship, and I don't care who they are and what they say. You are not there 100% of the time. You don't see what goes on behind closed doors. Everyone argues. Yes, okay? I have what I feel like is a great marriage, but we still argue, right? We still go through the same shit that everyone does. We still have to learn to communicate and talk to each other. And I will not sit here and lie to you and be like, everything's perfect and great, right? We've had our moments where we've both been like, I could just walk away from this. It's those moments of passionate response to something. So everything you see that someone else tells you is only what they want you to know, okay? Only what they want you to see. So rather than focusing on what someone else or other people have, ask yourself, why do I want that? And how can I get that for myself? Rather than, I wish I had what that person has, how can I build that for myself, okay? What am I doing that's preventing me from getting that? Is it my attitude? Probably. Or is it things that I'm doing, or am I not looking in the right place? Do I need different skills? Whatever it is in your life you want to change, instead of focusing on what someone else has, what can you do to get that? Okay. So that was, how is this showing up in our emotional and or physical energy, right? So this shadow element of envy or jealousy is basically a distraction. We are distracting ourselves and avoiding doing anything for ourselves right now because we are focusing on what other people have. Okay. Now, second question was, what can we trace the shadow element back to? So is there a particular thing, an instance, something that we've gone through, something that's happened to us? Okay. So normally, Nine of Pentacles, again, is a very beneficial card. We like seeing this card come up in a spread. In a traditional interpretation, this is like, congratulations, you've been successful. Resisting change too, Sarah. That's a good point. And like I said before, change is hard. Changing something is an active thing, right? We have to do something differently, and that is uncomfortable. Most of us are uncomfortable with change because we're in these little patterns in our life, right? We don't like upheaval. We don't like transformation, even though we know on the other end we're going to come out way better off for it, right? We initially resist that, okay? And that's what the shadow is there for. It's there to keep us from transforming. It's holding us back, okay? So Nine of Pentacles is usually, congratulations, your endeavor was successful. This might imply some sort of monetary success or reward. Typically Pentacles have to do with, your financial life or wealth or money, okay? So in the card, what we would typically see is this is someone who's appreciating the finer things in life, okay? This is the culmination of something, a wish or a desire that you've wanted. And when we interpret this from a shadow perspective, however, this could mean that you are sharing too much details about your life with other people. Or it could be that we are expending our precious personal energy on other people or on convincing other people that something is different about us, okay? And so going back to the example of envy and jealousy, right, is how this shadow element is showing up. Perhaps that envy and jealousy came from trying to fit in, right? Trying to be that person. So let's talk about how people present themselves online. Our reality is crafted by the things that we see, the images and the videos and the Snapchats and whatever, right? And when we see that all day long, we think to ourselves that we should have that too. We should live that way. We should act that way. We should talk that way. We should look that way, whatever that is that we are watching, okay? And so perhaps in the past we have tried, right? We have tried to fit in with that in group. Maybe it's a particular influencer that we really like. Maybe it's a brand. Maybe it's just someone that we know, right? And that person just seems to have it all. And again, nobody really has it all, but it looks like they do, right? And so we've tried to be that, but that's not us, right? It's not anybody. Nobody has that life for real. But we don't have that life, right? And we shouldn't try to, because you're just going to be super disappointed, right? If you try that. So what this could simply mean is that there's been some sort of past rejection that has happened, whether this was an in-group that you were trying to fit in with, or a person that you were trying to impress. Like maybe this was a potential love interest, right? And you were trying to be someone that you're not in order to get their attention. Okay, so that's an example of how this might have played out. Or maybe it was job or career related, right? So this was like applying for a job or working at a workplace where the majority of your coworkers or your boss perhaps have a certain, image or I don't know, character, something like that. This sounds like this is like ringing bells for you. And perhaps you tried to be like them, right? But you are not them. And again, I will point out to you that most of them are also not them. What you will find in social situations, and it's been a little while since I've worked in an office physically. I've worked remotely now for probably the last almost, 6 or 7 years. But I've worked in plenty of offices, gone to school, things like that. What we find is that there's always sort of an in-group, right? And and this is the exact same thing that we experience in like middle school and high school, right? There's always sort of this like popular group or in-group, right? And they are all exactly like each other. They are all copies of each other. They are all doing the same thing, dressing the same way, they think the same way, and they are all terrified to be even just a little bit different, okay? And we think that we grow out of this phase, but we don't. I promise you, as adults, we don't grow out of this phase until we like cognizantly look at it and go, oh my gosh, why am I trying to be these people? Why am I trying to fit in with these people, right? I've experienced this in relationships. I've experienced this in workplaces. There's always that pressure to conform, okay? And now I'll just be real, in the magical community, right? Those of us who define ourselves as witches or something like that, or pagans, we are non-conformists, okay? By nature, that's part of, on a basic level, yeah, and I haven't experienced this at work recently, but I have experiences, like I said, in relationships. I have experienced in workplaces previously, the pressure to wear your hair a certain way, dress a certain way, don't be weird, right? Well, we're all weird. Why can't we just be weird? I want to be weird. You guys want to be weird? Let's all be weird together. That's the way I think about this. So this like repression and suppression of your true self, or trying to be a version of yourself that is not your true self, which got rejected, right? At some point there was a rejection of somebody saying, no thanks. Guess what? Fuck those people, right? If I have to change who I am and do something different or in order for you to like me or hang out with me, I don't want to hang out with you. But I'm going to be real. It took me like 30 something years of my life to like fully embrace that. Like, I think there was like a year or two where I was a teenager that I was like, I'm going to be whatever the fuck I want. And then like adulthood hit and I was like, oh shit, I gotta like fit in and conform and I need people to like me. I don't know where that came from, but it just like, it hits us at some point as adults, or we never grow out of it as teenagers. So like here I am getting ready to be 38 next week, and I was probably like, I don't know, 34 or 35 before I fully was just like, I don't give a fuck, right? I don't give a fuck about you or your opinion or what you think about me or that person or that person. That's kind of where we need to live, right? So, but that's hard. That is so hard. That's so hard to break that habit and to break that pattern, okay? But rejection sucks. Let's be real. Rejection of any kind, whether it's a person that we find attractive, right, that rejects us, we take it very personally. And maybe it is personal, right? But most of the time it's not. It's just like, hey, they're not into us, right? There's plenty of people that we're not into, right? So it's not personal. It's just, hey, I'm just not into you. Okay, maybe it's work or job related, right? Rejection, like we don't think you're a good fit. Okay, fine, that's great. If you don't think I'm a good fit, chances are I probably wouldn't be happy there, right? And I probably would be miserable and end up quitting eventually, okay? So I kind of flip this around and go, you know what? Rejection is the universe or the source or your spirit guide or whoever is looking out for you going, guess what? No, you don't want to touch that, okay? Stay the fuck away. So rejection usually, if you think about it, you're probably dodging a bullet, okay? You may not realize it at the time. And so, Sarah, when you said I have parent rejection, okay? I don't know your parents and I don't know your story and your situation, but I have known people who've gone through similar things. And I haven't gone through parent rejection, but I do have a parent who was not into a lot of my interests, right? Like my mother was very into all of us learning how to play instruments. My parents are super eccentric. We did all kinds of cultural things, right? But anything that was outside of that, like sports related or technology, whatever, right? If it wasn't something that she was into, she didn't care. Okay. And it wasn't like that she hated us, but it was just like she wasn't going to expend any energy whatsoever. And that's probably a mild form of parental rejection. I know people who have gone through like their parents abandoned them, right? And that feels like rejection. I have known people who have gone through that through, multiple parents or family members. And that sucks. Like we take that personally, but know this, even if there is a parental rejection, it had nothing to do with you. Okay. It has everything to do with that person, right? And there is nothing wrong with you. They didn't reject you because you suck, right? They rejected you because they're not ready. They can't handle it. They're not prepared. They can't get their shit together. There's lots of reasons why, but it is 100% them, right? And it does still hurt. You're right. It does still hurt. You're always going to sit there and wonder, why did it happen, right? And there's not always a why. There's not always a good answer for that. There's not always a reason, but rejection does hurt. Okay. And we feel that. And this rejection that spawns into that shadow element that comes up, and that's that little voice that's like, you shouldn't apply for that job. You're going to fail. They're not going to like you. You shouldn't try to do that project because you're not going to complete it. Guilt can absolutely be it. I know this is something that children experience when their parents get divorced. They often feel guilt over the marriage, not working out. Like my son went through a divorce when me and his dad got divorced. And I'm sure that there were those feelings, and we gave him the opportunity to talk to therapists and things like that. But again, we never really know what somebody else thinks or feels. We can only know what we think and feel. And oftentimes we don't even really know what we think and feel. We kind of like suppress some of those emotions and don't pay attention, or we don't face them. You're right. And in adulthood, we do hang on to this and we don't get past it. We let it continue to affect us. I have someone very, very close to me that is in his 40s that is still dealing with things that happened to him as a teenager because of his parents. And it is not easy. It is really hard. Even if somebody can sit there and tell you, look, it wasn't your dad's fault that he just wasn't there for you, right? Or it wasn't your fault that your dad wasn't there for you. Like that had nothing to do with you. It wasn't him saying, I hate this kid and I don't want to spend time. He probably was a shitty dad, and he probably had a shitty dad who probably had a shitty dad. That's how things go. We learn how to parent from the people who parent us. And if we didn't have somebody to parent us, we don't learn how to parent, right? Unless there's somebody in our lives that's a good role model. So a lot of times it's a product of a cycle of things that happen. And I won't touch on this in this shadowy, but this would actually be a really, really good subject in the future. And I'll take note of this when we talk about ancestral trauma, right? So people who practice ancestral veneration or who work with their ancestors as spirits, right, to help them get through things in life and give them advice and overcome obstacles. There are a lot of ancestral traumas that your ancestors either committed or were committed against them, and they were not able to heal from. They weren't able to get past. And so now that they've left this world, they're still struggling to make amends or to experience that karma or whatever, right? They're trying to find closure on those things, and oftentimes those things show up in our lives. And this is a really good example of that, is the cycle of parents who aren't great parents, right? And then they have children who never see what a good parent is, and then those children don't know how to be a good parent, and so on, right? And the only thing we can do is affect us. We can't affect what's already happened, and we can't affect what someone else has done to us, but we can affect how we think and feel about it. And that's not, and I'm not implying that you can just get over that, because you're right. If you're close to 40 and you're still dealing with it and you're still hung up on it, that is going to take some time. But this is that rejection, right? This is that I tried and someone else didn't like it. So deep card. So then the last question is there anything we can do or change to overcome this energy blockage, right? So this may not necessarily be how do I get past the rejection, okay? Page of Wands is what we have here. This isn't necessarily, you're right, the only thing you can control is your actions and your reactions. In sometimes that's enough and sometimes it's not. Sometimes what other people do is still shitty, and there are still shitty people out there. And that I don't have an answer for that, but you can change how you think and look. You can cut those people off. I have relatives that I've completely cut off. They're dead to me because I don't give a shit about them. They're shitty people and I don't want anything to do with them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know people who have completely cut off parents because they were such horrible parents. They were toxic, abusive, alcoholic, whatever it was. They don't want anything to do with them. And sometimes that's the only thing we can do is completely cut them off. And if you're an empath, it sucks even more. You're right. So normally, Page of Wands energy is that childlike exuberance. We are passionate about we're excited, passionate about these ideas that we have. We have plenty of ideas. We have this energetic approach to life, okay? As a shadow element, when we're asking the question, is there anything we can do to change or overcome this energy blockage, okay? We want to ask, are we guarded or suspicious, okay? So usually when we have a rejection of some kind, we guard ourselves, right? We put up a wall and we don't let other people in, okay? I'm going to be 100% honest. As a Cancer, I do that, okay? Just naturally as a Cancer, I retreat into my shell and I'm like, stay the fuck away from me. But when I am wounded, I stay in that shell for a very long time and I don't like letting people in, and I know this about myself and I've worked on this. But when you have been rejected, or I will even apply this to if you have been betrayed, okay? Those are very hard feelings for anybody to get past, and they feel very personal. Again, it might not have been anything to do with you, but it does feel very personal and it hurts very deeply. So we can become guarded and distrustful, okay, and suspicious of others. And again, I wouldn't say those are terrible things to feel because, again, not all shadow elements are necessarily something we need to stop doing. Sometimes they are just a red flag to us that we're feeling an emotion and there's probably a reason for it. Sometimes when we feel guarded or suspicious around a person, it's for good reason, especially if you're an empath. You can feel their vibes, right? I know when I'm around somebody whose vibes just suck, right? And I'm like, I don't like this person. I don't know why I don't like this person, but I don't like them. I just want to be away from them. It's completely okay to be suspicious of those people because there probably is something wrong with them and you don't even want to get to know them well enough to know what it is that's wrong with them, right? And always trust your gut. You're absolutely right. So that's one way that this can show up. But also, are you gossiping, spreading rumors, ruining other people's plans? So again, this goes back to, are you so focused on what other people have, right? There's that jealousy and that envy. But also, are you like hating on them? Are you throwing shade, right? Instead of like, hey, I want to go out and get this for myself, it's I just want to see them lose what they have, right? I want a cleaner, more beautiful house, or I want a better relationship, or I want a better job, whatever it is that we think that we want, this other people have. Why hate on them, right? Maybe they worked really fucking hard to get those things. And again, maybe what you're seeing isn't actually as great as you think it is. It's my experience that the people who try the hardest to convince you that they have great and wonderful lives, their lives are actually fairly miserable. Like they're pretty dysfunctional behind doors. And they're basically, it's all just a facade, right? I can't even count how many of these like relationship experts and life coaches and things like that who basically like after a year or two of hitting it big, they come out and they're like, yeah, me and my spouse are getting divorced and my house is being foreclosed, and like all these things that we wouldn't expect to see happen to somebody who claims to have their shit together, right? But yet they are all human, right? They all live the same human experience we do. So if we're sitting there looking at these people and like spreading rumors and gossip instead of focusing inwardly on ourselves, like why do we feel that way? That's completely unproductive and that drains us big time. I have a coworker that lives in this mindset, right? So she lives in the mindset of setting such an impossibly high bar for other people and herself that there is literally nothing that you can do that can make her happy for you or that can make her feel proud of you, right? There's absolutely nothing you can do, okay? She's miserable. She's convinced herself that this is what the world is like, okay? And there's nothing you can do to change her mindset. Like, she lives in that mindset of spreading rumors, pulling other people down, trying to step on other people's successes. She can't be happy for anybody else, okay? So this is where this shadow element can show up. So what do we do to get, it is a bummer way to live. I wouldn't be surprised if like she doesn't have a job in a while, because it's one of those like super depressing negative attitudes that bring everybody else down around you, right? Always focusing on what's bad and what you don't have is no way to live. You can't be happy that way. So the flip or converse of this, as far as like, how do we get this to stop blocking our energy, is first of all, take a look at your life. Take a look at what are the things you're envious or jealous of. What are the things? Yeah, the energy is terrible. I stay away from her. I mean, we work remotely, so I don't even see her, but I definitely don't talk to her. Half the time, don't even want to answer her text messages because I'm like, I don't have time for this right now. It's never anything good, right? Take a look at your life, right? Okay. What am I jealous or envious of? What am I looking at other people and going, I wish I had that, right? What am I doing to change that in my life? Okay. So the last time I gave the example of like wanting to have a better body or skin or hair, some kind of like physical appearance related, right? A lot of those things are things that we can get if we work hard at them, right? So if we change the way that we live, if we exercise, if we eat better, if we just care for ourselves a little bit better. I'm going to tell you this right now, like one of the biggest things you can do is like drink enough water and have a better mindset, right? You will frown less. You won't have as many like, wrinkles and lines all over your face because you're not sitting there constantly like this, right? You're happier. A happy face looks younger. Like, I'm just going to be real, okay? And then, like, when it comes to anything else in life, most of these things are achievable on some level. Like, could we all be billionaires? No. But we could all improve our financial lot in life through certain actions, right? So can we go to school and get a different degree? Can we just change jobs? Can we move somewhere else where there's a better job opportunity? Can we get a roommate to share our rent with us? Like, there's ways that we can change our life temporarily that can have long-term improvement on our situation so that we can improve ourselves. So there's always an answer if you look deep enough, but that answer is not going to be in that other person's life. It's going to be in your life. You're still going to look inward, okay? So the main question of this here is, are you looking at your life through the lens of someone else's life, okay? Because it's never going to compare. It's never going to look as good as what someone else has made their life to look like. You basically have to create your own life, curate your own feed for you, who you want to be. And that's it, right? Like, we're unhappy about something that someone else has or does that we don't have. We feel like we've been rejected. That rejection has turned into this like jealousy and envy, that I wish that I had a better whatever, and it's holding us back. It's standing in our way. It's blocking. It's draining our energy to move forward because we're not passionate and excited about our own shit. We're so worried about what other people are doing. So that's it. That was good. That was deep. I feel like all of these are fairly deep though. I mean, being focused on the shadow self, we get into some of those deep conversations. So I hope that was valuable, and thank you for your feedback and participation. That's, I appreciate when this like resonates for you, and I do sometimes. So where the shadow work comes up for me is traditionally, so like I mentioned on the last one, that I actually see patients clinically as a dietitian. and most of them have a lot of like complex chronic health problems. And the first time I talked to them, I kind of like asked some questions to get a feel for what's going on clinically, but then I'm also asking them questions to get a feel for how do they perceive their situation and what have they been through. And usually when we get into those questions, I can kind of get a sense for what traumatic things have happened to that person. Because usually when there's like really hard to figure out health problems, there's some sort of like psychological or emotional stressor. Thank you. I'm glad that you really liked it. And those stressors manifest in us physically. So I haven't really ever done just shadow work. It's always been sort of rolled into like clinical stuff, because I'm not a counselor or a therapist, and I don't really want to be. But I have I have kind of toyed around with the idea of doing shadow readings. It might be something I offer in the future for individuals. But for now, I'm kind of just doing these videos to sort of so that I feel a little bit more comfortable reading, for other people or groups. Because I read for myself and I do shadow work with myself, but it's also, thank you, I appreciate that. It's also a passion of mine, because I think that most of us are walking through life harboring any number of traumatic experiences that hold us back. And it wasn't until I personally started looking at those, how am I standing in my own way, that I really realized how to spot this in other people and what questions to ask them. Like, when did this symptom start, right? And when they tell me, oh, it was when I was in my 20s, and I'm like, okay, well, how it happened to you in your 20s? Tell me about this. And then there's always something, right? Some super stressful thing in their life. Like they went through a million things, a divorce, a move, I graduated college, started a new job, got fired, had kids. And I'm like, how was your spirit in all of this? Was your spirit like disconnected? Did you feel like you were doing things for yourself? Did you feel like you were alone? Did somebody hurt you? Like those are all the things that we internalize and that act as a sort of wall for us that we can't walk past until we resolve them. So thank you. Thanks. Intuition is something that you kind of develop working with people, and it's weird because I've never really been able to put it into words as far as like the clairs, right? Like clairvoyance and clairsentience and that kind of thing. But when I touch people, I can feel reflected on me what they feel physically. So like when I have given like massages, like I can physically feel the tension. It will pop up in my back where it's tense on that person's back, like my husband, for instance. And I think there is a word for that. I can't remember what it is. Like it's a specific type of clair. But you can also feel vibes off of people. And I've worked with enough patients, like clinically, like I put in my time in doctors' offices seeing people for like weight loss, right, for years. And I dealt with lots of emotional vampires and lots of psychologically unstable people and lots of just trauma. Like somebody sits down across from you and you can just feel it roll off of them, and all they want to do is lose weight, but you can tell that they are not going to be successful because they have so much going on up here and they cannot get past this. Thanks. Hopefully the aura is real and it's not just my little like light thing that's shining on me. But it's hard-earned experience. I think if I hadn't gone through that and learned how to read people energetically that way, and I can't even say that I have like a formal process for this. It's more just like I can feel them, right? They just sit down and I can read this vibe off of them and I'm like, oh wow, like tell me about what's going on. And I don't know, it's been powerful for me. It's been a healing journey, and I hope that it helps other people. Like I said, I'm not a counselor or anything, but like any of the things that we go over in here, if it like drums up memories and thoughts and feelings and things like that, like that's usually a good sign, like you got to work on that. So, and it sounds like you have some stuff to work on there. Like we all do. Trust me, there's stuff that I thought I was over that the more I get into this, I am not at all. Well, thanks. I feel connected too. I love connecting. I gotta go and get ready to eat dinner. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a brain break, but I am super appreciative. I'm glad that you came and I'm glad that you liked it. I will be back on Friday for sure. And then probably at least once over the weekend. So if there's something you want to go over, like if you want to know for like a specific topic, let me know. Just send me another DM, and I'll kind of create a spread around that, and we can pull some cards and dive into it. But yeah, and it might get deep. It seems like we always get deep. There's no way not to go there. So thanks. I hope you have a really good evening, and thanks for coming. Bye. You take care too.